Passengers stars Chris Pratt as Jim Preston and Jennifer Lawrence as Aurora Lane. Now, Jim Preston is an engineer. Aurora Lane is a journalist. Now, they are aboard the starship, and they call it the Avalon. They are on a voyage, a 120-year voyage to a new planet, Homestead 2, as they call it, to colonize that planet. Okay, so they're going off to this new planet. It takes 120 years to get there. 30 years into the voyage, Chris Pratt, Jim Preston, his pod malfunctions, and then it opens and Jim Preston is awake. So he's isolated here. He's by himself in this starship all alone for a good year and a half. And then we're introduced to Aurora Lane. Now, before we were introduced to Jennifer Lawrence's character, we were introduced to Michael Sheen's character, which was Arthur. Now, I want to say this, Chris Pratt and Michael Sheen, I should just refer to them as their characters. I like Jim Preston and Arthur's chemistry a lot better than I did with Jim and Aurora. I really did. Because the character of Jim Preston has a lot more substance to it than Aurora Lane did. Aurora Lane, about the only thing that I got out of what they said about her is that she's a writer, okay, and she's writing a book. It felt like every scene they asked, "Oh, are you writing your book? How's your book going? Oh, my book is doing great." It felt like that's all they talked about with her. There wasn't much substance. Meanwhile, Jim Preston's character, he has substance. And while Arthur, who is an android, is a robot bartender, his character doesn't have much substance. He makes up for it with a lot of comedy and witty humor. So that accompanies nicely with Chris Pratt's character. And then just it turned into a romance. Obviously, you have a female Jennifer Lawrence, you have Chris Pratt. Obviously, it's going to be a romance. I knew it was going there. Doesn't mean I have to like it though. I did not like it. It was just, it wasn't that, it didn't feel that important to me. The first part and the third part of the movie, the thriller, when stuff, I don't want to give any spoilers, but stuff starts to go down in the third part and the first part are a lot more interesting than the middle where they just had the romance. And then, this movie was just very predictable. If you haven't seen the movie, just think of like a space thriller, and what could go wrong, and then boom, you're probably imagining the film. It's very predictable. And then towards the end there, I know this entire movie is based on unrealistic scenarios that people get through, but towards the end there, like the climax, there was just it started to bother me. It was just, I just wanted to get through it because it was just like there was an obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and it's like I'm thinking one of them has to take you down, and it just doesn't. And I don't want to spoil anything, but when you see it, you'll know exactly. It was just jab after jab after jab, and then nothing happened. And then at the end, this may be a little bit spoilery, but at the end, the ship finally gets to Homestead 2, and they see the results of who woke up early and everything. I'm trying to be as less spoiler as I can. We don't really, not really, we don't see what happens after that climax. We don't see, the resolution is very underwhelming. We don't see the aftermath of the climax very much. It just sort of ends after it. And that just, because I'm invested into these characters and I don't know where they ended up. It's just left to my imagination. I don't know what happened. I had so many questions, and I don't want to say what my questions were because that could be spoilery, but I just had so many questions after it. So this was a mediocre film. The romance part of it, which was a majority of it, wasn't that good. Jennifer Lawrence's character didn't have much substance at all. The best part about it was the first 20 minutes or so. The connection, the chemistry between Arthur and Jim was truly the highlight. Was truly the highlight of the film. Chris Pratt's acting was by far the best in the movie, even though there was only like 5 actual actors. Chris Pratt was easily the best. Passengers, if you want to see it, I suggest you take a buddy with you, you bring a friend, so both of you could make fun of the little things that you notice along the way.